black because a person don't believe in all immigrants that come to America should be able to identify as Black American. Excuse me. When a person comes from another nation, if they come from Jamaica, they should be Jamaican American when they land on this landmass. But since America is evil and they want to harm a Pacific group, they allow any person coming from Jamaica, Haiti, Bahamas, the continent, Ethiopian, Nigerian, and all these brown nations to land in America and identify as Black American and African American. Now, how did that make sense? How is that fair? So if those individual persons want to get on a public app and voice their anger at their government because they want to allow anyone coming from any of these brown nations to identify the same way as those persons who have that identity, they don't have any other identity. They don't get to choose to be Jamaican. They don't get to choose to be Nigerians. They don't get to choose to be Haitian. They only have one identity that America has stamped on them, which don't mean a recognized ethnicity, because a person cannot belong to a black racial group in Africa and have a birthright. But these individuals who come from Jamaica, Haitian, and the Bahamas are okay with America harming Negroes and Black Americans, descendants of Negroes, and freedmen and FBA and ADOS by checking that box. They okay with America harming those specific groups by allowing them to identify the same way. They are okay with that. And because those persons in those specific groups understand they have been harmed by their country for 54 years, we're just going to count the past 54 years that America has allowed each one of those persons coming from those nations to check the same box. So those specific groups who have already been harmed by slavery, have already been harmed for the last 150 years, now they got to fight over crumbs with other immigrants that have the same skin color. They have to fight over the same resources because America allows those individuals to check the same box. But a Tara and Pan-African person who choose to get on a public app and defend immigration, they don't have any problem painting negative narratives about those persons fighting their country for delineation. They don't have any problem getting on a public app and painting a negative narrative about those persons wanting to fight for reparations. So they get on a public app and paint a lying narrative that those persons who want to fight their country for delineation, who want to fight their country for reparations, they have the liberty to get on a public app and say, why are you doing that? Why are you causing division? Why are you causing separation? Why are you causing all this friction? Is reparations worth you causing all this division and don't want to be black flatness? How dare you? How dare you get on a public app and fight for your ancestors' harm of reparations and restitution? How dare you fight for your birthright for delineation? How dare you? You are going to be labeled anti-black. You are going to be labeled everything in the book that they want to say out of their mouth publicly. Then those same persons will get on a public app and cry when they get a public response, because I have never went out my way to attack anyone. Anytime I have put a person's name in my title, it's been because they disrespected me. And I have the recordings. I have the recordings of how individuals spent more than 2.5 hours in a space character assassinating me. I have the recording. I saved it for my proof. When Disruptor disrespected me in his Twitter space, I put him in my title because he took the liberty to disrespect me in public, so I took the liberty to respond to him in public. I took the liberty to put Heartbreaker D name in my title, and persons like him who defend immigration because they took the liberty to defend immigration publicly. So I took the liberty to respond to them publicly. If they have the right to get on a public app and paint a lying narrative for Negroes and Black American descendants of Negroes and freemen and ADOS and FBA to be against immigration, then I have a right to defend my well-being in my country every single day that I live. So if you do not want a public response, then don't make a public statement. If you do not want the persons who are going to be harmed by your statement, then don't get on a public app and make public comments that are harmful. It's no secret that America's #1 weapon has been immigration. My ancestors were murdered just trying to get a job because immigrants wanted those jobs, and America brought them to America to get those jobs. So when those immigrants got to America and those Negroes wanted those jobs, they had to die. They had to be drugged to the streets. They had to be hung and burnt. Their body parts had to be cut off because they wanted a job so they could put a roof over their head and food in their stomach and clothes on their back. Well, you immigrants were not here when that was taking place. But now you got the freedom to be on a public app and talk negatively and paint a negative lying narrative because persons don't want immigration to keep harming them. You feel that you have the right, after all of us have witnessed this invasion, but this invasion has been happening since immigration policy was passed into law. Just in the past over 3 years, it has escalated. And it makes no sense for any brown skin or dark brown skin person to be defending immigration because America used their power to cause destruction in your nation. America caused destruction in Jamaica, so those persons had to immigrate to America. They had to pack their suitcase and come to another country because America caused destruction in their nation, and they had to immigrate. They had to immigrate to America and other nations and other countries. So why in God's name would any brown skin, dark brown skin person be on a public app defending immigration unless you are benefiting from it And a lot of you know you have been benefiting because America allowed you to check that box. You know clearly, as long as you have common sense, you know clearly that you have been checking that box for well over 50 years. When you go to a college and apply for a job, a college, and those applications get reviewed, immigrants with brown skin and dark brown skin are taking spots that should be going to descendants of Negro ancestors. And persons know this information, but they deny it. They say it's not happening. Well, there's clear, undisputed proof that affirmative action was not benefiting descendants of Negro ancestors. It has been proven without a shadow of a doubt that affirmative action benefited every ethnic group but Negroes and Black American descendants of Negroes and freemen and ADOS and FBA for the past 50 years or more. It's been proven that these immigrants with brown skin and dark brown skin are taking college spots that should be going to descendants of Negro ancestors. They are taking those slots because they are checking that box that says Black American and African American. And that applies in every non-activity of life. Whether that's going to apply for a job, whether that's applying for a loan, whether that's it covers all of the non-activities of life. The data has been proven that all immigrants have jumped ahead of all Negro descendants of Negro ancestors. They have jumped ahead of all descendants of Negroes, Black American descendants of Negroes, freemen, ADOS, and FBA. All those persons who were here before 1865, all those persons who are descendants of family members who were in America by 1865, all immigrants that came after 1865 have jumped ahead of those specific groups. That does not happen for 150 years straight unless it's being done on purpose. You cannot believe that 150 years have passed and those specific groups have stayed at the bottom while America has allowed those immigrants to jump ahead of them, because something has to be in place on a consistent basis. It has to be in place on a consistent basis for 150 years. By the law of average, it should change up. By the simple law of average, it should change up. That those 5 Pacific groups should not stay at the bottom, and that every immigrant is allowed to jump ahead of them. By the law of average, Germans should be at the bottom sometimes. By a law of average, Asians should be at the bottom sometimes. By a law of average, Caucasians should be at the bottom sometimes. By a law of average, Jewish person should be at the bottom sometimes. By a law of average, Jamaicans should be at the bottom sometimes. By a law of average, Haitians should be at the bottom sometimes. But it has not changed up in 150 years. In 150 years, it has not changed up. So it don't take rocket science to evaluate it's being done on purpose. But getting back to, I'm going to make this broadcast really brief. These individuals get on a public app and they constantly paint a negative narrative about FBA. Whatever reason on this God's green earth, these persons are fixated about FBA. They are fixated because FBA has called them names, have said whatever things that's negative out their mouth. I don't know. I cannot speak for those persons. But they have no problem. The last room that I remember them doing, it was Malcolm, King Cam, Ben X, Brother Ben X, Atara. I think Tamara may have popped in. They got on a public app. I will repeat the names again. Malcolm, King Cam, or Cam King Cam, Brother Ben X, Atara, and many other names that I can't remember. Well, they recently opened a Twitter space and made it very clear. They made it very clear that Negroes and Black Americans who are descendants of the ancestors who were here before 1865, by 1865, freemen, ADOS, and FBA were causing division because they wanted to fight for delineation. They didn't have any qualm getting on a public app and complaining and painting a negative narrative that all of those specific groups did not have the right to fight for delineation, for their birthright, because you are fighting for delineation and you are causing division. Oh, you are fighting for reparations, and is reparations worth you causing all this division? They don't have a problem getting on a public app and preaching that narrative, that negative narrative that is going out to the atmosphere 24/7, that negative energy, that negative message is going out to the enemy that these individuals are painting a negative narrative that those persons are causing division. They are causing separation, all because they want delineation, all because they want reparations. But those same individuals are not opening a Twitter space and complaining about Farrakhan reparations claim that do not include those 5 Pacific groups. They have not taken one day off of their life to open a Twitter room with the name Farrakhan reparations claim. Do not include Negroes, do not include Black American descendants of Negroes, do not include freemen, do not include ADOS, do not include FBA. They have not taken the time off of their life to open a Twitter space and complain about that. Rano, all you Pan-African persons by your name, I will be on Twitter land when November comes, 2 years, and I have yet to see one Twitter space where you persons have complained about Farrakhan reparations claim for diaspora in the Caribbean and the continent. You folks have a reparations claim out there, and it does not include Negroes. It does not include Black Americans who are descendants of ancestors who were in America by 1865. So we could be specific. I want to be very specifically to separate persons who identify as Black American and those that America gave the right to identify as Black American, but they also can identify as Jamaican, Haitian, Bahamas, Ethiopian, Nigerian, and all these other ethnicity terms. So let's make it very clear of the separation. The freemen are not included in that CARICON reparations claim. The ADOS is not included in that reparations, that CARICON reparations claim. FBA is not included in that CARICON reparations claim. But have any of these persons who get on a public app and try to claim harassment, who get on a public app and paint negative narratives about individuals who want to fight their country, these individuals have a right to fight their country if they evaluate that immigration has harmed them for 54 years or more. They have a right to fight for their survival. They have a right to fight their country when they can clearly see with their 2 eyes and 2 ears that America is paying these immigrants. Did not Joe Biden sign an executive order telling the banks that they could not turn down immigrants' loans application? Have we ever witnessed any president sign an executive order for Negroes and Black Americans who descend from ancestors that were here in America by 1865? Have we seen any president sign an executive order for freedmen to get approved for bank loans? Have we seen any president sign an executive order for ADOS to get bank loans and cannot be rejected? Have we seen any president sign executive order for FBA to be approved and the applications for bank loans not be rejected? Well, Joe Biden took the time to sign an executive order sending a clear message to the banks that they do not have the right to reject immigrants' applications. They already have the advantage. Every immigrant already have enough advantage because they do not have a credit score. But no one wants to talk about that. See, no one wants to talk about the immigrants when they get to America. They have a clean record of no negative credit score. No one wants to talk about that. How that's hurting. How that's hurting every Negro, every Black American, every freedman, every ADOS, every FBA. These Pan-Africans don't want to talk about how that is hurting those specific groups. Oh, they turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to that information, to those facts. They just completely turn a blind eye to that fact that these immigrants come to America and they don't have to worry about a credit score. When California passes a legislation giving immigrants the ability to apply for a down payment, I think it's what, $150,000? How different life would have been for Negroes and Black Americans who are descendants of family members that were in America by 1865. How much of a difference it would have made for freedmen, ADOS, and FBA to be given the ability to apply for a down payment of $150,000 for a home and not have to worry about their credit score. Most of them won't even have a job because the country has been flooded with immigrants, and persons know this. These politicians are not trying to hide it. They got on a public before a public microphone. They went before a public microphone and said, we are going to create 60,000 jobs for immigrants, specifically for immigrants. We're going to put them through job training, and we're going to create these jobs. We're going to build these apartments. We're going to pay for housing vouchers. We're going to pay for rent vouchers. We are going to pay for EBT. We're going to pay for medical care. We are going to allow them to collect Social Security when they certainly have not paid into it for any length of time, 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. They have not paid into Social Security. But those same persons who get on a public app and defend immigration turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to that harm of all of that benefit that's given to those immigrants should be given to those specific groups that have been harmed in America since slavery ended. But they're not given those benefits. They're not given the ability to be able to get $150,000 for a down payment. So when America canceled Special Field Order 15, why didn't America 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later come out with a legislation that would approve $150,000 for each of those Negro ancestors and their descendants to receive a benefit of $150,000 down payment? Why hasn't America done that? America had, from the very moment that America canceled Special Field Order 15 in 1865, they had the ability to do the same thing that they are doing for the immigrants in 2024. They could have done that same thing for those Negroes that came out of slavery. For that Special Field Order 15 that got canceled, rescinded, they could have done that same thing if they wanted to have a positive impact on the Negroes and those who are descendants of ancestors who were in America by 1865. America has had over 150 years to implement restitution to those 5 Pacific groups that were harmed, and they have yet to do that. But they never hesitate to do everything in their power to benefit immigrants when they come to America. But Pan-African and those that preach about black flatness, those that preach about unity, they turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the harm that's being done to that Pacific group for well over 150 years. They prefer to get on a public app and defend immigration when immigration has harmed each of their nations. All of these nations, Europe, Russia, China, America, all these nations that you persons call superpowers, they cause destruction in your nation, and they cause you to have to pack your suitcase and migrate. So why would you be on a public app defending immigration? I need for someone to explain that to me. I need for someone who's an honest person to send me a DM and explain to me why any person coming from the continent of Africa should not be in the condition that it's in. That those persons have to pack up their suitcase and leave Africa when Africa has abundance of resources. Africa has abundance of human beings, people. They have people in abundance. They have abundance of resources. So why is persons from Africa suffering the way they are, going without electricity, going without water, going without an infrastructure. Why is Africa suffering the way it's suffering? Well, America has played a major part in that. So why would you come to America and support immigration when you clearly should have been able to evaluate that America is the cause of you having to immigrate to another country? You immigrants do understand that, don't you? Maybe you don't. Maybe you Pan-Africans don't understand the weaponizing of immigration that has caused destruction in all these nations that are suffering. The Jamaican, Haitian, the Bahamas, the continent, Libya, all these brown nations are suffering, while these non-brown nations are getting assistance. They are getting funding from around the world. But these brown nations, like Jamaican, Haitian, the Bahamas, the African continent, and on, are allowed to continue to suffer, and they people have to migrate to another country. These people are having to pack their suitcase and migrate around the world to try to have a better life, to try to survive. So I'm going to ask the question again: why in God's name would any brown skin or dark brown skin person be in America defending immigration? Why would Pan-Africans be defending immigration? But these persons, they can take me to court and they can crucify me, and they're probably going to do it. So you may not be hearing from me. That's okay. My mother raised me, and I have dedicated myself to standing on what is true. If it come a time when I have to be taken out by standing and fighting for my human rights, my well-being, and my birthright, then so be it. It's meant to be. If Atara and Tamara want to take me to court and claim that I have harassed them, so be it. But I have evidence where I supported Atara and Tamara's coat drive. I sent them DM messages inviting them to support my boycott. Well after when Atara disrespected me and called me Blk American. I showed all this support after Atara disrespected me. I came into Tamara and Atara's Twitter spaces more than 2 or 3 times to support it, to engage in a conversation if I had anything to contribute. They never once came to any of my Twitter spaces to support me. I sent them the direct link to join my boycott on my Twitter profile. They have yet to do that. But then they'll get on a public app and talk about unity. So am I wrong to get on a public app and give my personal testimony of evaluating fake unity? Is it wrong for me to get on a public app and respond to that fake unity that these persons claim to be standing for? Am I the bad person because I will not stay silent when I simply extended my support for what they have done? I went into their space and supported their space, even though I am not NOI, even though I know that we don't totally agree on quite a few things. I still took the initiative to click their room title and go into their space and support it. I asked in return for them to support my boycott, but they chose not to do it. I didn't need a Tara or Tamara to send me a DM message asking me directly to donate to their coat drive. I took that initiative on my own because I was in a space with both of them, and I heard them talking about it, and so I reached out to them and I asked them, what did I need to do to be able to donate to the coat drive? I took that personal initiative to do that. And I simply asked in return for them to click on a link on my Twitter profile and add their number to the boycott that I had launched. Even if they never wanted to participate in the boycott when it was activated, their number count would make a difference. And I made that clear when I put it in room titles that I opened on Twitter, because I was not getting any responses to the boycott. I made a room on Twitter and I stated very clearly, even if you do not want to participate in the boycott, just by adding your number to the total count will make a difference. That a screenshot could be taken that is 1 million persons in this boycott community that's ready to activate at any time. Even if all those persons in that boycott community was not going to participate, just by being able to take a screenshot showing that there's 1 million or 2 million persons in that community group would be a powerful enough threat. I explained that. Still, persons have refused to just join the community boycott. But persons don't have a problem getting on a public app and asking that you support what they are doing. They don't never hesitate to get on a public app and preach that they're doing stuff for the community. I'm trying to do something for the community to gather the number count, and I can't ask you enough times to just simply click a link, and you won't do it. And I don't understand why. Most of the persons in my DM, I have sent them the direct link to the boycott community more than 3 or 4 times. More than 3 or 4 times. It's still in my DM. I don't have to lie. I can take screenshots of different individual profile names where I can show you proof where I have sent them the direct link more than 3 or 4 times. But some of these same persons will get on a public app and preach about all what they're doing in their community, all about unity, all about black flatness. Well, if those things that you are preaching out your mouth is real, why would you not click the link that I sent you? What did I do so bad to you that you refuse to click the link? We don't have to like each other. We don't have to rub elbows with each other. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to be associates. We don't have to be in the same clique for you to simply click a link and add your number to the number count. We don't ever have to speak to each other. But these same persons will get on a public app and say, well, I've been in the movement for decades. So I would like to ask all these persons who make the claim, who always get on these public apps and claim that they are grassroots activists, for all of you grassroots activists who took part in the Black Panther, and you've been a part of the movement since the Black Panther days, where's your number count? Can anyone send me a screenshot since Tara and Tamara want to take screenshots? Send me your screenshot of your number count. Since you persons like to get on a public app and claim that you're doing all of this, well, send me a number count. Why have you not joined the 50 network groups that I set up on mine so I can help get out the word what you were trying to do? I can take time off of my life and set up over 50 groups on minds.com that represent each of the 50 states, and persons won't join them. They won't join them. They won't share the posts that I post on my timeline. But then they'll claim that they're doing the work for the community. They'll claim that they are activists. They come from family members who were long-time activists. So where's your number count? I don't claim to come from a long line of activists. I have always made it very clear that I did not become a part of this until January of 2022. I have stated that over and over again. I have never tried to present that I have been a part of this movement and this grassroots movement for decades and decades. My mindset was shaped around entrepreneur from the time I was 9 years old. That was my passion before I went in the military, and it was my passion when I came out of the military. Now, from time to time, I did pay attention to politics a little bit. I was addicted to C-SPAN. I mean, I didn't watch much of anything on TV but C-SPAN. And I tried to understand this corrupt political process and how it was impacting my day-to-day life and how it was impacting my community. So I became addicted to C-SPAN when I was watching TV. I no longer watch TV anymore. I stopped watching TV, boycotting TV in 2020, December of 2020. So I started my boycott in 2020. My boycott included me boycotting TV, news stations, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all news stations, the Grammys, the BET, the fast food restaurants, My Little Caesar Pizza, all sports. And that was the hardest part for me, to stop watching my sports. It really was hard for me to disconnect from my sports, but I did it. I have days when I feel weak and I want to give in. I have many days when I feel weak and I'm saying I'm going to go watch a sports event. I'm going to watch some basketball. I'm going to watch some football, and then I have to make sure that I don't give in. And I have to fight against wanting to give in and stick to my boycott. No one is standing over me to make sure that I do that. I have to hold myself accountable. No one is standing over my shoulder or sitting beside of me evaluating whether I'm sticking to my promise to myself to boycott in the way that I have chose to boycott, to not watch these sporting events. I ain't never had a problem with shopping. I ain't never been a big shopper. I ain't never been about name brands, so that really didn't even factor in. The only time I brought name brand stuff was when I was in Korea, Michael Jordan. But I ain't never brought no Michael Jordan sneakers. I ain't never brought no Michael Jordan name brand. I ain't never brought no all these name brand jeans and clothes and purses and everything else. I ain't never spent any money on name brand stuff. I ain't never been a mall shopper. Ain't never been a part of my life. So I really didn't have to struggle with that part. I didn't have to struggle with that shopping part. The only part that I had to really struggle with was to stop watching my sports. So, got a little sidetracked there, so let me go back. So, Atara and Tamara opened a Twitter space for 51 minutes and character assassinated me. Made all types of assumptions. The two of them plus two other women, black girl Tabit, somebody named Borkin, got on that Twitter space and did it publicly and made all these assumptions that I scrubbed my timeline. I ain't deleted nothing on my Twitter timeline. But they got on a public app and made that assumption and made that claim. I ain't deleted not one thing. Not one thing that I have posted in the last 6 months on my Twitter account. In the last year. I ain't done not one bit of that. But they got on a public app and made that accusation. Did they care that they were dispersing my character? Do they care about that? Did I get on a public app and claim that they made lying statements about me? No. I made one statement that Atara called me Blk American and disrespected me. That's the only statement that I have claimed that they made. But they sat in that room for 51 minutes and made all the claims under the book that I'm a psyop, that I'm working for somebody, that somebody is paying me. Did they care? Did they care 1 second as the words came out of their mouth that they were character assassinating me? Did they care about that? No, they didn't care. Did they care about every time they get on a public app and characters and label FBA a hate group, a Nazi group, anti-black, white supremacy? Do they care every time they open a Twitter space, a Pan-African Twitter space, and claim that all those specific groups that are fighting their country for delineation is anti-black? Do they care about that? When they keep making those statements over and over and repeatedly, don't they realize that they support the enemy? Do they care? Do they care to evaluate it that they just may be helping the enemy? Every time they get on a public app and talk negative about delineation. Do they care about that? Do they care every time they get on a public app and talk negative about reparations? Oh, they're never going to get it. America's never going to give you reparation. Well, I want each of you persons who have spent a quality amount of time telling the Negroes and the Blk Americans and the Freedmen and the ADOS and the LBA that they're never going to get reparation. I want you to contact CARICON. Contact CARICON and inform them that the Caribbeans and the continent would never get reparation. Let's just be fair and balanced across the board. Have any of you done that? I just want to ask the question. Since you spend so much quality time getting on a public app and making it very clear that America is never going to pay reparations, that these human beings don't have the right to fight for delineation. You don't have any problem doing that. So why don't you open a Twitter space and put in a title that you are denouncing your ethnicity? Each of you can get on a public app and denounce your ethnicity. Say, I denounce my ethnicity Jamaican. I denounce my ethnicity Haitian. I denounce my ethnicity Bahamas. I denounce my ethnicity Nigerian. And then you can proceed to denounce your national origin. I denounce my national origin Jamaican. I denounce my national origin Haitian. And then you can proceed to denounce your nation. Say, I denounce my nation Jamaican. I denounce my nation Haitian. So what is stopping you folks is, since you are so angry and you're crying 24/7 about Negroes and Black Americans and freedmen and ADOS and LPA, the fighting for delineation. Well, why don't you, what's stopping each of you for denouncing your ethnicity, from denouncing your national origin, from denouncing your nation? What is stopping you? Since you got such a problem and you're so offended that those specific groups want to delineate and want to fight their country, if those persons want to die for reparation, why do you have anything to say about that? It don't, see, folks are exposing themselves.